Thank you very much. Excellent, thanks for that, Abs. I've spent the last couple of weeks with Abs on the campaign trail, and I've never heard you speak in public, so that was brilliant. Thanks very much. So I'd just like to say that I'm really pleased to be here at Heythrop. I'm a student at SOAS when I'm not being ULU president. I still haven't finished my degree in the study of religion, and I was going to come to Heythrop to do a module here, so who knows, in my third year, maybe I'll come back and do a module. I remember at the Freshers' Fair at the beginning of the year, we had a number of different flyers for ULU about the sports and the societies, and then about Tony Benn speaking at a conference on education, and actually that was the one that most people here at Heythrop were interested. So not sure if you came to the ULU meeting, but if you didn't, then I'm glad you're all here today. This is absolutely an excellent turnout. Now, you know, well, obviously we know the details. We know that fees are going to be £9,000. We know that most universities are going to try and charge that. Some of them have already said that they're going to, and if one starts charging that, then others will follow suit. Otherwise, they'll feel that they're, you know, offering a second-rate degree. We know that they've removed the educational maintenance allowance, which is basically pocket money for hard-up FE students, and we know that they're announcing cuts. I mean, some of the cuts are just, you know, unbeatable. 100% cuts to arts and humanities, which is what the subjects that you study here are. I know there's a slightly different way of doing things here because you're funded not by the government per se, but even so, we still need to defend our education for all the other students and all the other future students. I mean, already we're seeing that the education is changing shape. I mean, my son, who's at an FE college doing his A-levels, has told me that in his history class, they used to have 30 people in the class, and now there's only 3 of them, because they know that they can't, or they think that they can't afford to go to university, so they're dropping out of doing their A-levels altogether. What's the point? Can't afford 50 grand debt. And they're going to go and try and find a job in a market that's clearly going to be almost impossible for young people without A-levels, without degrees. So what a downward spiral we're facing into. And also, what sort of education system do we want? Do we want one where we only go to education in order to get a well-paid job at the end of it? You know, where to only do the subjects that have a quantifiable rate of return? Or do we want everybody to be able to study whatever they want for as long as they want in order just to improve either themselves and society in general? You know, what about nurses? What about teachers? What about people that want to do art courses for people with disabilities? Do they have to have a massive debt at the end of it? We are arguing for a progressive taxation system, which means those in society that earn the most pay progressively more for the entire public services. But we're not just anti-stuff, we're also pro-stuff, aren't we? We're pro a better society, we're pro-sexual equality, we don't want to see homophobia, sexism, racism, disablism in our society. So I want to talk a little bit about LGBT issues, for example, because I noticed on your notice board downstairs there was an email from somebody asking what the heck has it got to do with LGBT people, because I think a lot of people have this stereotype of LGBT people being really rich, double income, no kids family. Well, this is not true. I'm on the National LGBT Committee, I have been for a number of years, and there's numerous research out there to show the effects that the cuts will have on LGBT students and people in general. Already in London, £500,000 has been slashed from LGBT services. LGBT students are often estranged from their parents who aren't able to cope with their sexuality. Therefore, those students are unable to claim, to apply for the loans and the grants because their parents won't even acknowledge them as children. So they have massive financial debts and problems at university. And with that, the knock-on effects of the health, you know, the mental health issues, the worry about not having money, and also obviously the homophobia that they often face within university and within wider society. So that is the reason why LGBT people are going to be affected by the cuts. And women, for example, we know will be affected by the cuts 75% more than men, for similar sort of reasons. It's women that often need the healthcare and all the other services, you know, childcare, and we have to do all the extra work, well, yeah, don't even start me on what women have to do in society, I'm sure you know. And we also know that when there's an economic crisis, there's a rise in fascism and racism. People blame people from other countries for coming here, stealing our houses, or stealing our jobs and all that sort of thing, when we know that actually it's the government selling off our housing stock and then not using the money to replace that I think that's one thing we should be doing, is investing in building houses so everyone can have a decent home. People will be able to have a job building those homes. Once you've got that job, you'll then be able to spend your money in the economy, and therefore, hopefully improving the economy, no end. I don't want to talk about students and this apathy thing, because really students can't win, can they? On one hand, they're apathetic, they don't care about anything, and on the other hand, they're always protesting about something. And this is not just now, this has always been like this. And obviously students recently have proved that they do care about things. At least 50,000 students were on that first demonstration, including, I know, because I saw you all arrive, loads of you from Heythrop, and I saw you on lots of other demonstrations since then. And I've done a few things, loads of things at ULU obviously, but one of the ones that we did was this equality movement with Jodie McIntyre, the guy that was dragged from his wheelchair, and Loki and Logic, and the room was packed with 400 young people, 15, 16, 17 years old, mostly women, mostly non-white people, lots of women in hijab. It was brilliant to see such a young, politicised, audience that really want to change society. And that perhaps wouldn't have happened had we not have had the brilliant demonstrations that we've had recently. I think if we also look at somewhere like Royal Holloway, traditionally an apathetic, apparently, conservative, perhaps small C university, they've had a brilliant anti-cuts movement this year with an occupation. Even their chaplain, Father Vlad, he's brilliant on Facebook, you should see him, he's always liking my comments and stuff, supporting them, taking them food, and just saying how brilliant the students are. And they've just had Daniel Enverja Cooper elected, who was central to the anti-cut stuff there. And I just remember meeting Daniel and Claudia at the beginning of the year, saying, God, what are we going to do? Royal Holloway's so big and everybody doesn't care. And we were talking about how you get these things started. It does only take one or two, couple of people to put their hand up and say, I'm against the cuts. Who else is against the cuts? And people come, flock round you, you get together, you organise, do political meetings, you organise occupations, demonstrations, lobbying, emailing, phone calls, whatever whatever it takes to get that movement started. I just want to talk about the media thing. Thanks for bringing that up, Paul. Obviously, the Newsnight thing had a massive impact and had a lot of emails from that. As Abs was saying, actually, we had thousands and thousands of emails and letters and Facebook and Twitters from people, and it was majority, I would say 90% of them were positive, from people saying it's just so brilliant to see the students doing this. We had a handwritten letter from an ex-police officer who said, the students are just so brave and inspiring, and here's £10 for the pot to help you in your struggle. So thanks to the ex-police officer, and also to the president of NUS in Australia. Said, we've seen what you've been doing over there. It's given us confidence and inspired us all the way over the other side of the world. So obviously we've given people confidence. But just a little bit there, I'm not defending myself here, but just wanted to explain Newsnight a little bit. It was at the end of the biggest, maddest demonstration that I've ever been on, if you like. Never seen anything like that. We were all totally sort of in a surreal situation. And then I was invited along to Newsnight. It's not the easiest thing in the world to do. Paxman is certainly no pussycat, and afterwards he did say to me, you've done really well, because he's been on strike recently, and I think he does actually support us, despite his ageist and sexist comments towards me, but that's his job, I suppose. So we've given everybody confidence, and of course we are going to get attacked, because we are taking away, or we're wanting to take away the privileges that these people have taken away from us for many years. The rich people don't want to give up their wealth, and that's why they're obviously going to attack us. Little thing on Edward Woollett, I did a meeting like this down in Hampshire the other day, in Eastleigh, which is where I'm from, and Edward Woolett's mum and dad and his friends came to the meeting, and it was really quite an emotional point for me, because of course nobody agrees with the moment of madness of throwing the fire extinguisher off that building, not least Edward himself. He just can't understand what went through his head. His mum and dad said, he was really cut up by it. But what has given him hope is, again, what the students have been doing. We've sent him, we started up a petition and sent him messages of support. He now has support from Bernardo's and Stop the Children. Save the Children. Another one of my slips. Save the Children, who have, started a fund to support him. And he does, even though he's obviously upset by the long, indiscriminate sentence, know that he's been given this sentenced, to make an example of him, he still fully supports the movement, and he just, you know, knows that what he's doing is still for the cause. So he wants to thank you all there. Just finally then, so how do we build the biggest movement for March the 26th? Like I said, you know, we have to talk about all the different issues. We have to do meetings, not just anti-cuts, but how we want to change society. We have to do meetings, as we did at ULU recently, about women, the cuts and the resistance. We have to do stuff around LGBT. We have to do meetings around, you know, anti-war, anti-fascism, and try and get people from all different elements of our society involved in the movement. On the 26th, it is going to be, you know, a day where loads of different people are going to be on it. It's called by the TUC, the Trade Union Council, and so there are obviously going to be lots of trade unionists on the demonstration. Lots of unemployed people, disabled people, single parents, people in precarious work, you know, part-time and temporary contracts. Lots of them aren't going to be in trade unions, so we're all going to be on that demonstration together, you know, saying the same message that we don't want these cuts, we want to march for the alternative. Now, it does seem like a massive job if we want to get millions of people on that demonstration. Demonstrations themselves aren't just about marching from A to B, although some people say it's about marching from A to B, but it's actually on a demonstration when people become, I think, politically aware much quicker than some of the lectures or you know, discussions that we might have when we're drunk in the pub or whatever. On the demonstration, you meet loads of people and you have those debates, and I think it's really important for that reason. Not just demonstrating, but it's for a longer future. What about after the March 26th? Where do we go from there? So even though it seems like a massive job to change society, just like I said about Royal Holloway, it only takes a couple of people to put their hand up in a placard and say, do you want to change the world? If you do, get on the demonstration with us, and I hope to see you all there. And I'll be staying around for questions and answers after.